Hey there, Legal Tea listeners. This is your host, Jenny Roselle. Welcome back for another Legal Tea episode today, episode 107. That's a lot, geez. Anyway, today's topic is a current trend, and on this type of episode, we dive into something going on like in the current time, or maybe that I've stumbled across on the news or social media that is pertinent to my estate and elder law world. Today's episode is inspired by the recent news on the super high lottery. It was like the Powerball or something that was recently like $1 billion. Whatever it was a lot. And it got me thinking, what if one of my Legal Tea listeners or one of my clients or friends or whatever actually won the lottery? And I know it's a total pipe dream, but just in case it ever happens, I thought it would be kind of fun to talk about what you should do. And if you do hit the lottery and you've listened to this episode and intelligently deal with your lottery winnings, I won't hate you if you throw my podcast a bone and help me hire an assistant. So now, before we really dive in, this episode is inspired by an article on Yahoo that is, of course, linked in the source links for this episode. And that article is based on tweets shared by a gentleman on Twitter, which now Twitter is known as X. I don't know if you caught that they rebranded. Anyways, it was a gentleman on there by the name of Andrew Lokanoff. I hope I didn't mispronounce his name. And anyways, his Twitter handle is Fluent in Finance. So, Andrew is a financial executive and a big deal on social media. And somewhat recently, he had shared 5 steps every lottery winner should take. So I just wanted to give credit where credit is due. That Yahoo article and my episode here are really byproducts of Andrew's super helpful tweets and tips. So give him a follow, and while you're at it, feel free to follow me too at my handle, Jenny Roselle, Rozelle. Alrighty, let's get started, shall we? So for a second, just for a moment, let's pretend you have a lottery ticket in hand and you're checking your numbers, and oh my gosh, you are the lucky winner. Can you even imagine what that would feel like? So before you start texting people that you won, and before you post it on social media that you won, stop right there, and don't do any of that nonsense. First, try your hardest to continue to breathe, exhale, and second, find resources, come back to this little episode on what you should be doing, what you should be considering. And as Andrew shared, I too am going to go through the 5 things that you should absolutely do if you hit the lottery. And there are others too, my friends, but these 5 I think are crucial, vital, tips and non-negotiables that these should be followed. So, alrighty, starting with number 1, hiring a professional team. So Andrew specifically suggests the following professionals: an estate planning attorney, specifically one that works with high net worth folks, a tax attorney, an accountant, a financial advisor, a security professional, and a personal assistant. I don't disagree with any of those suggested professionals. And in fact, I don't think I would have even considered a security professional. But that is such a wise addition that I had, like I said, not really considered, but it makes total sense. When you're talking about lots of money, not just a lot, but a lot, there is no telling what someone would be willing to do, right? And it's kind of scary and sad to say that, but it's true. It's just part of the world we live in. And furthermore, the awesome thing about professional relationships, just kind of on this topic, is that a lot of times in these professional relationships, I'll use attorney-client relationship as an example, the relationships have to remain confidential. So, for example, if my BFF Susie wins the lottery and she calls me to assist and provide legal advice, I can't tell the news that my BFF Susie won the lottery. She's my client. I can't disclose that. That would not be confidential. It would be a violation of many ethics rules, actually. Even beyond the privacy factor, those professionals like the lawyers, accountants, financial advisors, they're going to be crucial in helping you develop a sound plan for not only collecting the prize, but how to structure your now really large estate and financial plan. That is also now going to come with some significant tax considerations and concerns. That's why you need all these professionals on your team before you collect the lottery winnings. And one last note on this whole professional team. Andrew noted, I'm not sure if you caught when I said this, but he also noted a personal assistant was one that he highly recommended to be on the team. And initially you may be like, what? But it makes sense, just to assist in your day-to-day life. Because guess what? Life is going to change massively and rapidly. And that personal assistant can help arrange various appointments, transportation, travel arrangements, personal shopping, etc. And a personal assistant would be a fantastic addition to the team to help with all of those things. Alrighty, so the second thing on the 5 things you should do if you hit the lottery, it's make copies of your winning ticket. So as Andrew shared, quote, you don't want to risk losing your winning ticket, so it's a good idea to make copies of it immediately, end quote. Andrew even suggested a couple additional things about the actual ticket, like hide the ticket somewhere, like to keep it in a protected, safe place. And 2, you could even make a digital copy of the ticket and store it in an encrypted cloud storage or like an external hard drive as just like a backup of that winning ticket. And, as a lawyer who, of course, I have to overcomplicate everything, right? Or maybe it's not overcomplicate. I just ask, my mind is constantly always going, and it's hard for me to like not think about what if this, what if that. But I wonder if the original ticket got lost, if they would be willing to accept a copy of the winning ticket. And I feel like there's probably fine print on the ticket or the rules of playing the lottery. So if someone wants to look and go ahead and let me know what it says. I just would be curious if you have to supply the original. Alrighty, so shifting on to the third thing on the 5 things you should do if you hit the lottery. The third thing, which is another super important one, is if your state allows you to collect the winnings anonymously, do so. You will never, ever, ever regret that decision. So that'd be one of the first things the lawyer on your professional team should be looking into. If your state allows you to collect anonymously, and regardless, what legal structures, whether it be trusts or companies like LLCs, that the lawyer should be helping you navigate these topics and decisions, and what things can be created right now before you collect the winnings, and really just to be able to promote this idea of privacy and being able to collect things as anonymously as possible. Perhaps your state allows you to create an LLC. This is kind of a common thing that a lot of lawyers would be immediately looking at to see if their state allowed for it. But perhaps the state would allow you to create an LLC, make the registered agent the lawyer, who again, remember, has confidentiality rules to you. So they can't say, oh, I'm the registered agent for my client, Susie. And then you make the owner of the LLC like a trust with the trustee that's not you, to protect your identity. You're, of course, the beneficiary of the trust. Anyway, so that's just kind of a common thing that gets thrown out there all the time. And one last note on this, as Andrew shares, never, ever, ever, ever sign the ticket until you have discussed a plan with your professional team. Some states do not allow you to review or amend the signature line on the ticket once you've signed it. So I found a blog. It was on a website by a law firm, Stewart Brannigan, and they shared that there was a lady that had won the lottery in New Hampshire. Well, she later admitted that it was a massive, massive mistake because when she signed her winning ticket, because the state lottery officials would not allow her to remove or white out her name and replace it with a trust she had created, which was created to protect her identity and protect herself. So the lottery officials would not let her change that signature line and only allowed her to keep her personal name on there. So she ended up having to collect the prize, and everyone under the sun knew it was her who won and who collected the prize. So it became too late after she signed the winning ticket. She should have waited to talk to her professional team. Then that professional team should have had her sign or collect the winnings in a way to protect herself. Alrighty, so now shifting to point 4 on the list of 5 things you should do if you hit the lottery. Point 4, which this should probably be number 1, but I think these are all so important, so I don't know if I would prioritize any of them over the other. But, now that I'm knee deep in this episode, we've got to keep going. So point 4 is do not tell anyone that you won. If you can somehow keep it as private in your circle, the smallest possible, the more you're able to do that, the better. As Andrew states, quote, "This might be a hard rule to follow, but resist telling everyone you know that you won the lottery, as this could put you in danger," end quote. And what did I say earlier? Before you start texting people that you won and post it on social media that you won, stop. Stop right there and don't do any of that nonsense. Like I said back, a few minutes ago, breathe first, gather your thoughts second, and then come back, to some sort of resource, like maybe this episode, on what you should be doing, what you should be considering. Keep your inner circle tiny. Otherwise, as Andrew states, quote, "Never tell anyone so you don't become a victim of robbery, extortion, or death," end quote. And I say that, and I totally know it may sound crazy, it may sound dramatic, but I think we all know people who would have done far less severe things for money. Finally, the last point number 5 on the 5 things you should do if you hit the lottery. That is, even after everything we've discussed here and after collecting your winnings, you should try to become and stay as private as humanly possible. There are plenty of stories and articles out there that share what has happened to people who hit the lottery, and some of their lives are ruined. And I know most people say, "Oh, I would do the right thing with that kind of money." And they also say, "How do these people file bankruptcy and stuff after winning?" Well, clearly it's possible. It actually happens all the time. Bad things end up happening all the time to lottery winners. And a lot of the times it's because they do not follow these 5 guidelines, these 5 pointers, honestly. And I actually linked a Huffington Post story in the source links for this episode, if this topic really, interests you, I guess. And that story shares story after story about people who ended up worse off than before they won. And there's even a story about someone that won the lottery twice, and she's completely broke now. So check that article out if you get a chance. Andrew shared, quote, 70% of lottery winners end up broke and 33% declare bankruptcy, end quote. To me, those numbers are completely just wow, right? They're sad, really. And he further recommended to delete social media, change your address, and to get a new phone number and email address. And these seem like such tiny little shifts, but they will pay huge dividends so that you don't become, a cautionary tale. You become a success story. I think that's why some people even think that hitting the lottery would almost be bad, because it's almost like the cards are stacked against you, 1, and 2, you almost have to become like a recluse, like a hermit to protect yourself, which stinks. Or you could be, like some of the success stories out there that you hear that continued to show up for work and they continued to live a normal life and no one really knew they even hit the lottery. And that's because they likely followed most of these pointers. But rather than obviously starting a new life, they just continued their life, which didn't tip anyone off that they won. And I really didn't want to end on a sour note talking about like the cautionary tale stories of people that their lives were like ruined after hitting the lottery. So I also linked an article about success story winners, and those were really fun to read. There was a story where the winner donated their winnings to assist in medical research to help find a cure for a disease that killed their granddaughter. Or there was another one where a guy bought like this huge ranch and started a camp for kids so that kids could ride horses and do crafts and swim at a big lake. And with a specific aim that the camp was founded to for kids to disconnect from video games and cell phones. I love it. So check out that article too for some fun little success stories of lottery winners. So let's end on that note, shall we? A few of my friends happen to hit the lottery. Good for you. I hope you do. I'm now equipping you with this episode and this information to support you in doing the right thing. And should we put some good vibes in the air and say when one of you hit the lottery, not if? I'll cross my fingers for you. And as I always jokingly tell clients, my problem with the lottery is that I have to play to even have a fighting chance at winning, and I don't play. So, some would say that's smart. Some would say, why would you not, at least try? Okay, I'm out of time, friends. I'm actually over. I usually try to keep this at 15 minutes. So, next week, let's wrap this episode by talking about next week. So next week is back to estate planning of the rich and famous, and we're going to dive into what happened estate-wise following the passing of super well-known actor Paul Walker, who I totally remember my sister having a massive crush on when we were little, and I don't think she listens to my podcast, so I just will embarrass her a little and her not even know. Alrighty, so Paul did some really good things in his estate plan, but he also slipped on some things too. So it will be a good one to analyze and help identify things done well and things done not so well. So we will dive into that next Tuesday, Legal Tea listeners. Talk to you then and stay well.